What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're telling you 10 things you probably didn't know about Spider-Man. Spidey is one of the most popular superheroes in all of comics, but there's still a lot about him that isn't mainstream information. So today we're going to peel back the web curtain a little bit and hopefully give you info about Spider-Man that's brand new to your ears. And if you're a Spidey expert and none of this is new info for you, congratulations, you win a no prize. That's a reference in itself, something only die-hard Marvel fans will get, but with that said, let's get into it. Did you know that Spider-Man is hyphenated for a reason? That's right, Stan Lee didn't do it just because it looks cool, there was actually a practical element to it as well. You see, when Stan Lee wrote Spider-Man down on paper, he thought it looked too similar to Superman, and of course he didn't want anyone to confuse the web crawler with the Man of Steel, so after giving it some thought, he put a dash between Spider and Man to make it distinctly different from Superman on paper. In fact, the actual quote from Stan Lee is as follows: "It looked too much like Superman. I didn't want people glancing at the name and thinking it said Superman." It's funny how something so simple has now become extremely iconic. Like the word Spider-Man doesn't even look like Spider-Man on paper if you don't add the hyphen. It just looks wrong. But staying in the lane of Spidey's creation, another thing you probably didn't know about Spider-Man is the fact that he was almost called Fly-Man. You see, after the massive success Stan Lee had with the Fantastic Four in 1961, he needed to find the next big thing. And that next big thing came in the form of a fly. As the story goes, Stan was in his office one day brainstorming when he saw a fly crawling up a wall in the Marvel offices. And after seeing this, Stan's like, I got it. We need a character that could stick to walls and climb up vertical surfaces with ease. At this point, he started brainstorming names for characters such as Mosquito Man, Insect Man, and Fly Man. Now, thank God none of those names stuck in the end, as Stan Lee would eventually be like, no, I got it, Spider-Man, because that sounds cool and dramatic, unlike Fly Man or Insect Man. It's at this point Stan hired Steve Ditko to design Spider-Man's costume, with Ditko presenting him as an awkward teenage hero with the abilities of a spider, and from there, the rest is history. Stan was always the best at knowing what fans would want to see in comic books. Anyway, here's a crazy one. Did you know that Peter Parker wasn't the first Spider-Man? That's right, Peter Parker's Spider-Man debuted in Amazing Fantasy 15 in 1962. However, about a decade earlier, in the 1950s, there was another Man-Spider, or Spider-Man, running around Marvel. You see, in the 1950s, sci-fi comics and monster comics were extremely popular. And in Journey into Mystery 73, there was a story that had a household spider transformed by radioactive rays, making him a humanoid talking man-spider. Right after being hit by radioactive rays, the spider grew and gained the ability to talk as his brain enlarged. The comic even says, as the creature grows, his brain enlarges, his mental capacities increase. He is able to think, to speak. As the spider says, I have become huge, powerful. The humans inside are my enemies. I must imprison them until I am ready to deal with them, as he webs up the whole facility he's at. Now, ultimately, this man-spider was killed by a missile in the story, and it's more of a monster story than a heroic man with spider-like abilities. But nonetheless, this is a Marvel comic book, meaning they technically had a character that could talk with spider abilities before Peter Parker Spider-Man. And to me, that's wild. And speaking of wild, have you ever felt the adrenaline that comes with finding a collectible you've been hunting for, then winning it for a killer deal at auction? It's like hitting a buzzer beater, just glorious, and that's exactly why you should check out today's sponsor, Encore. Encore is a great alternative to live stream shopping, since you can look for awesome comics on your schedule whenever you want. Just imagine if a live auction and TikTok had a baby. Yeah, that would be Encore. So when you're shopping for a comic on Encore, real collectors will show you what they're selling in short videos, and many actually share stories or knowledge about the comics for sale, so you can get small deep dives while you shop. As experienced collectors might imagine, the auctions on Encore can get crazy on some of the rarer items, with last minute bids flying in and lots of trash talking in the chat. Regardless, there are some awesome sellers on there, so don't be surprised if you win an auction and the seller personally messages you to say thank you and let you know you're in good hands. But even if they don't, you can have peace of mind knowing that Encore takes trust and safety seriously. So all sellers are ID verified, and the Encore guarantee protects you when your item comes not as described. Oh, and make sure you don't miss the giveaways available in the app. They are completely free to enter, and if you win, Encore even pays the shipping. Not to mention, once you enter the giveaway, you can get 5 extra entries per friend you bring to join the giveaway with you. Just share the link in the app with your friends, and when they enter, your odds of winning go up quickly. So use our link in the description to download Encore on the iOS or Android app stores to start winning deals on awesome comics. Again, just click our link below, and happy hunting. Now, this next Spider-Man fact is definitely something not a lot of people know, which is the fact that it was confirmed in Spider-Man Reign issue 3 that Peter Parker's sperm is radioactive. That's right, Peter Parker has radioactive swimmers. And the reason we find this out is because his radioactive sperm ended up giving MJ cancer, which ultimately killed her. You see, in issue 3, while holding onto the corpse of MJ, Peter says, "Oh God, I'm sorry. The doctors didn't understand how it happened, how you had been poisoned with radioactivity, how your body slowly became riddled with cancer. I did. I was. I'm filled with radioactive blood, and not just blood, every fluid, touching me, loving me. Loving me killed you, like a spider crawling up inside your body and laying 1,000 eggs of cancer. I killed you. And those last precious moments, I didn't even share them with you. Too busy catching crooks. When I came back, your bed was already empty." This is one of those things that a lot of Spider-Man fans who know about it like to forget, but in times like these, it needs to be brought back out because the mass audience has no idea this was a thing. So if you were ever wondering, yes, Peter's sperm is radioactive, and it ultimately led to Mary Jane's death in the Spider-Man Reign storyline. Moving on to the 5th thing you may not have known, Peter Parker has possessed the power of Thor. That's right, homeboy was full-on wielding Thor's hammer, as we saw in Marvel Action Classics Spider-Man 2-in-1. Now I will say this isn't 616 Spider-Man, but it's still Spider-Man wielding Thor's hammer nonetheless. Basically what happens is after Peter stops a mugger from taking Enchantress's necklace, she's like, "Yo, I could have done that myself, but your selfless act of heroism was not without purpose. You have intrigued me, and so I have come to make you an offer. You shall accompany me to the Golden Realm and serve as my personal champion, and perhaps more." Long story short, once at Asgard, she gives Peter the power of Thor, with him holding Thor's hammer and all. This ultimately puts Pete into confrontation with Thor, but Thor quickly shuts it down, with Peter eventually returning back to New York. As none of this was really his fault, he was tricked by Enchantress. It's a quick, simple, fun story that shows us what it would be like if Peter had the power of Thor. Moving on to the 6th thing you probably didn't know about Spider-Man is the fact that he has the most nicknames out of any superhero. This is one of those things that when you think about it, it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people might not take the time to think about it. There are a lot of characters in comics that have a bunch of nicknames, like Batman being called the Dark Knight, the Cape Crusader, and the world's greatest detective. Then you have Superman, who's called the Man of Steel, Big Blue, the Last Son of Krypton, and so on. But Spider-Man beats them all. I mean, you've got Webhead, Spidey, Wallcrawler, Webslinger, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Bug Boy, Tiger, Arachnid Avenger, Insect Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Sensational Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Man, Midtown High's only professional Wallcrawler, and believe it or not, the list keeps going. It's pretty ridiculous just how many nicknames Spider-Man actually has. In any case, let's move on to number 7. The 7th thing you may not have known about Spider-Man is the fact that his webs dissolve in 2 hours, as stated by Marvel themselves when breaking down Spider-Man's web shooters. As Marvel has officially stated, after about 2 hours, certain imbibed esters cause the solid form of the web fluid to dissolve into powder. This is one of those things not a lot of people may have thought about, but now that you know it takes 2 hours for Spider-Man's webbing to dissolve, it also explains why there isn't webbing constantly hanging everywhere in New York. Peter specifically designed it to dissolve after 120 minutes. Again, most people knew that Spider-Man's webbing dissolves, but didn't necessarily know how long it took for the webbing to dissolve, but now you know. Moving on to the 8th thing you might not have known is that the radioactive spider that bit Peter and gave him his powers didn't only bite Peter. No, it actually bit someone else, and that someone is Cindy Moon, aka Silk. You see, as revealed in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 from 2014, via a flashback in the issue, we see Peter at a science exhibit where they're demonstrating the use of radioactive rays in a lab. And as we all know, a stray spider accidentally absorbed a crap ton of radioactivity, at which point the dying spider in shock bites the nearest living thing, which of course was Peter Parker. But after biting Peter, the spider didn't die, at least not right away. It lived long enough to crawl away and bite someone else on the foot, and that someone else was Cindy Moon, who was at the same exact science exhibit as Peter Parker. Then after biting Cindy, it died. Now this was a massive revelation Dan Slott gave us back in 2014, because from 1962 all the way to 2014, we were led to believe Peter was the only one bitten by that specific radioactive spider, only for Dan Slott to be like, yeah, no, there was someone else there, Cindy Moon, who later becomes Silk. If you want to know more about Cindy Moon, her story is actually really cool, and we did an entire episode breaking down her origin right here, so go check that out. Another thing you may not have known about Spidey is the fact that he almost bankrupted Marvel. That's right, Spider-Man, the most popular Marvel character and one of the 3 most popular superheroes in the world, almost bankrupted Marvel in the 90s. You see, during the 90s, DC Comics was putting out banger storylines like the death of Superman and the Batman Nightfall storyline, where Bane breaks Batman's back and Bruce is forced to pass the Batman mantle to Jean-Paul Valley. So obviously Marvel's like, well, we need our huge event. Enter the Clone Saga. Now, the Clone Saga, which spanned from 1994 to 1996, is infamously known as one of the worst things Marvel has ever done. While it did introduce us to one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man and fan favorite version of Spider-Man, Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider with the awesome blue hoodie, that's pretty much the only good it did. You see, the Clone Saga just confused the hell out of readers and messed with continuity for no reason. The event caused Peter to believe that he was not the real Peter Parker, so he gave up the mantle of Spider-Man, at which point a bunch of clones entered the mix. We also got a pregnant Mary Jane and a bunch of other stuff that just made it confusing and overall not that great. Now, I will say in the mid-90s, there were also other factors that led to Marvel almost going bankrupt, one of which being their decision to self-distribute their own content. But the Clone Saga is definitely one of the biggest things people cite as Marvel almost going under because it was not a success. And it seemingly went on forever with a ton of ads and marketing all pushing its convoluted plot that was just pissing off Marvel and Spider-Man fans. Things were getting so bad during this time that a third of Marvel employees were actually laid off as the Clone Saga was going on, leaving Marvel to try to figure out how the hell they're going to stop themselves from going under, which obviously they did. And that came in the form of Marvel movies. Enter Wesley Snipes' Blade, which saved Marvel from bankruptcy. From there, we got the X-Men movies, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and ultimately the MCU, with the rest being history. Now, the last thing we're going to leave you with that you may not know about Spider-Man is the fact that he saved teenagers from becoming pregnant, like a whole bunch of them. Yeah, I'm not joking. That's literally a thing that happened. So the 70s was a wild time for comics and just America in general, and Spider-Man was no exception. You see, in The Amazing Spider-Man vs. Prodigy, Spider-Man encounters a man going around schools misinforming teens about pregnancy. He's all like, dude, getting pregnant is an awesome way to get rid of your acne. Also, the first time you do the no pants dance, you can't even get pregnant. Basically saying all of this outlandish stuff, and we find out the reason for this is because the man is actually an alien in disguise who just wants the teens' babies. So he's going around schools and on TV preaching that teens should get pregnant. And when Spider-Man hears this, he's like, good grief, I see it all now. This guy's plan is to keep kids from getting facts. They probably don't even know that getting pregnant at their age is risky for mothers and babies. He wants them to be baby machines, changing diapers, going nowhere in dead-end jobs, sitting home every night trying to find the time and money to go to a movie or buzz out to the burger stand. Yeah, guys, the 70s were wild. This was absolutely ridiculous. You couldn't find a better way to make a PSA about teen pregnancy? Evidently not. Marvel had to make a Spider-Man comic where an alien disguised as a human was going around telling teenagers that having babies was awesome so he could steal them. But luckily, we got the webhead because he saved those teens. Oh yes, he did. He exposed the slimy alien that wanted to steal babies. Utterly ridiculous. But again, the 70s, a groovy time all about psychedelics and substance abuse. But there you have it, my comic comrades. 10 things you probably didn't know about Spider-Man. I hope we brought you some new information. And if we didn't, we hope it was at least fun rehearing these crazy things about Spider-Man. Either way, let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.